pressure on us will not work. It must be clear, the international pressure on Israel during critical days in the negotiations for a ceasefire and hostage deal has already caused Hamas to harden its position. This pressure is directly sabotaging the chances for a ceasefire and hostage deal. It is only pushing towards military escalation by hardening Hamas's stance.
Ensemble, nous savons la nécessité d'offrir un chemin politique. Et je crois à l'avenir de la solution à deux États comme base d'une architecture de sécurité régionale qui permettra à Israël de vivre en paix et en sécurité avec ses voisins. Je crois à la nécessité d'unir nos voix à Paris, à Londres et partout ailleurs pour reconnaître un État de Palestine et initier cette dynamique politique qui est la seule conforme à une perspective de paix.
On the first question, I think I can just reiterate the answer I gave to your colleague earlier, that for the kingdom, recognition is very much tied to the establishment of the Palestinian state, and we certainly hope that the clear consensus shown today, and which will be shown tomorrow as well, and the clear momentum towards establishing that Palestinian state can open the conversation about normalization, but it can only open first if the conflict in Gaza ends, if the suffering of the people of Gaza is alleviated, because there's no reason even or no credibility to have a conversation about normalization with with constant death and suffering and destruction in Gaza. And then we have to talk about the establishment of the Palestinian state, and once that is achieved, then obviously we can talk about normalization.
Palestine is an open wound for humanity, a wound of decades of suffering. 77 years have passed, and today we find ourselves immersed in the longest and bloodiest crisis of this conflict. We must understand that pain does not distinguish between beliefs, ideologies, or borders. We do not defend sides, we defend innocent lives. Preserving peace, life, and humanity makes it impossible to hide behind a silence that always goes against the victims. That is why Spain recognized the State of Palestine in May 2024 and proposed the idea of an international conference to begin establishing the two-state solution, to start building a future of peace for Israel and Palestine. Hence, and today, I want to call on the countries that have not yet done so to join this two-state solution and recognize the state of Palestine. A decision that is not against anyone, but in favor of peace, justice, and rights. Exactly the same right that the Israeli people and the Palestinian people have to a future in security and peace and to a state. The defense of life, peace, and human rights is the conviction that guides us. That is why I reiterate the demand for the release of the hostages and all our solidarity with their families. Neither Hamas nor any terrorist group can have any role in the future of Palestine. We have adopted sanctions against violent settlers and those who sabotage the two-state solution and will continue to do so. We have requested in the European Union the suspension of the association agreement and adopted an arms embargo on Israel. The Middle East does not need more weapons, it needs peace. We demand an immediate ceasefire, the massive entry of humanitarian aid, the release of the hostages, and the reconstruction of Gaza. From the very beginning, we said that overcoming this crisis requires the solution of two states, Israel and Palestine living together in peace and security, with Gaza and the West Bank under a single Palestinian Authority, with territorial continuity connected by a corridor, with access to the sea, and with its capital in East Jerusalem. We also said that this solution must be implemented through an international conference with the presence of all the states that want justice and peace. The negotiations must have a clear objective: the establishment of the State of Palestine with the parameters of the United Nations resolutions and the negotiations between the parties. Our initiative aims at the recognition of the Palestinian state and the recognition of Israel by the countries that have not yet done so, and I also call on them to do so, a framework of action that responds to the current reality and concrete measures that will allow us to achieve results within a time frame of no more than 15 months. Spain is working for a collective vision that charts a path towards peace in the Middle East. We are all very aware of the decades of pain that precede us. That makes the decision we make today more necessary and urgent. It is time to fulfill the promise that gave meaning to this organization. It is time to unite for peace. And above all, it is time to heal the wound that humanity has with Palestine, and to bring justice to the Palestinian people and peace and security to all the peoples of the Middle East.
Drawing on that experience, we reaffirm our support for the peoples of Palestine, Western Sahara, and Cuba. We condemn in the strongest terms the crimes against humanity and the genocide committed by the apartheid state of Israel against the people of Palestine. We are particularly horrified by the deliberate starvation of the people of Gaza. We call on the state of Israel to allow food and essential aid to be allowed in and to be distributed amongst the starving Palestinians. We call for an immediate end to the relentless bombardment of civilians and the destruction of their homes, their hospitals, their places of worship. We call on the world to stop the murder of children and babies through starvation. Our position remains very clear. Liberation is indivisible. We are not truly free until all are free.
With regard to the situation in Gaza, I would say, first of all, it is clear that after almost 2 years of war, the situation is tough. But there is a lie, and the lie is the starvation policies which the international media, including BBC, is cooperating with. And don't disturb me. You asked. I respect that, and now it's my turn to answer your question. And the reality is the opposite, because we are working very hard under very complicated circumstances from the beginning of the war until this day in order to facilitate the entrance of humanitarian aid into Gaza Strip. We are witnessing a distorted campaign of international pressure against Israel over recent days. This campaign fuels the anti-Semitism wave we are witnessing. When they demand end this war, what does it really mean? Ending the war while Hamas remains in power in Gaza. That will be a tragedy for both Israelis and Palestinians. This is why they took the hostages in the first place, to try to impose their will on Israel. It ain't gonna happen. Everyone who is worried about the humanitarian situation must ask himself, who is responsible for the suffering of the Palestinians in Gaza? Who is responsible for this war and its continuation? There's only one clear answer: Hamas.